Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Stranger Things tarot deck. Now this is a sort of fandom deck from Insight Editions, and I do just want to let you all know that this deck was sent to me for review. So I have watched all of Stranger Things. I wouldn't consider myself like a crazy Stranger Things fan. I definitely enjoyed the show. It's something that I watched with my husband. And so there's a little bit of like that personal connection there. Again, not a super fan. I know there are lots and lots of super fans for Stranger Things out there, but I have watched all of them. I am caught up with what's current. So it comes in a nice two-piece box. We have a little guidebook, which we'll take a look at the end. All of the Insight Edition decks that I currently own are all pip decks, and I honestly have not watched any walkthroughs of this deck because I knew it was being sent to me, so I wanted to make sure that my first impressions were actually my first impressions. Has a nice little ribbon box, which is great. So we're going to take a little flip through the deck. We do have the backs, which have the title on it. I'm not a fan of text on the back of my cards. I don't read reversals, but if you did, that makes it hard to use this deck in a reverse sense if you are flipping cards upside down. We're going to take a quick flip through the deck, and then it looks like we are gonna go backwards. So I'm just gonna go in the way that it's sent and the way that it's been pulled, and we'll go from there. I do want to also maybe do a little card pairings with this, so we'll do that as well. I do like the kind of torn photo kind of aesthetic that we have. We also see that on the book as well. I do really like that on the front of the cards. It gives a lot of character. I'm not fond of borders, but I don't mind borders that are intentionally designed like this one is. So I think that's pretty cool. So we have our Ace of Spokes. I'm going to assume these are pentacles. Again, I have not looked at this deck. I've not watched any walkthroughs because I wanted my first impressions to be my first impressions. Now, I grew up as a younger child in the 80s, so there's a lot of nostalgia in this deck for me as well. Two of Spokes. I love the spokes, the idea. I do kind of want to know what it is. Maybe it's not pentacles, but it's like this whole, riding your bike, going out into the neighborhood. Like that's things that we used to do as kids. So there's our 3, there's our 4. I really like what they've done here in terms of the, not doing a straight up pip deck where it's just, however many elements on the card. A couple of their decks, I'll just full disclosure, have been a bit of a disappointment to me. The Star Trek one for sure, because those are pips that don't have, there's nothing to them. It's basically like a standard playing card. And in tarot, I like to see more of the imagery. I do enjoy a pip deck, but I definitely like to see more of the imagery. And this is great. I love the bikes. Oh, this is fantastic. So we've got some characters in here. Is this some cloud watching maybe in the 7 of Spokes? It's pretty cool. Here's our 8. So we have a little bit of a little pip style energy, but there's still a scene being depicted. And this is great. I hope they continue in this vein with their decks, as well as maybe even giving us even more illustrated minors, especially when we're talking about fandom decks, because there's so much that you can pull from where you're not actually having to use characters. There's just these wonderful worlds that we get engrossed in that you can pull elements out of that without actually having to depict characters, which is my guess, being licensing and whatnot. I'm not an expert, just guessing that that's where the issue lies, is you probably have to pay for licensing of every character that you use, would be my guess. So here's the 10, the skateboard, super cool. Here's our Page of Spokes. Quite lovely. Our Knight, I love that. Our King, interesting, our King and then our Queen. That's pretty cool. Great illustrations. So here we have our strands. So this is light, so maybe wand energy. I'll be curious to look. We'll look and see what each one is afterwards. But here you can see we have our Ace, which is the one light lit up. That's great. Here's our 2. Uh-oh, we're getting a little pippy. Getting a little pippy. 3 of strands. Okay, whew. See, this is fantastic. I love the 4 energy with the door, but we still have all the lights, so we're still tying into that to that element that they've chosen to depict for their minors, so that's great. Even this is beautiful. I love this, the 5 of strands. Oh, look at that. That's super cute. The 6 of strands. So here's our 8 with all of the lights all tangled up. That's really cool. So I'm feeling like I'm feeling maybe like it's swordsy. Little 9. So 9 of strands. I mean, if that were the 9 of swords and the nightmare card, like I probably should have looked, but like seriously, this is my first impressions. I'm just taking it out of the box and we're going with it. So here's our 10. That's awesome. I love that. Our page. Our knight. It makes me giggle. Our king. Is that the Queen of Swords? That's kind of awesome. I love it. If strands are swords, that's really cool. So here we have the Ace of Scoops. Our 2. A little balancing there. I'm not entirely sure what each suit is. The suits aren't always super apparent to me in these decks, but I'm sure we can look it up and I'll have a little bit better idea once I actually dip into the guidebook a little bit. So here's our 3. We're kind of getting a little pippy again. Here's our 4. Because see, we're seeing the same background. This is where we start getting into some of that, I'm just going to be honest, the lazy pips, right? There is something being illustrated here, but the background is still the same. It's just what is in the forefront that's been changed. And then we have some of them that aren't, and there's more of a scene depicted, so that can be a little bit jarring when you're working with it in a reading. It's kind of like be pips or don't, right? The kind of mishmash doesn't always work for me. So there's our 6 and our 7. Again, we're still kind of, this one has a different background, but we're still kind of in that very pippy nature. And our 8 and our 9. Again, I feel like there's a lot more that could have been done with that suit beyond just the ice cream. Here's our 10. The page. I mean, usually in these Inside Edition decks, the quartz and the majors are oftentimes really cool. The knight, it's cool. The king, love that. And who's our queen? Funny. So Ace of Dice, yes, that's awesome. Okay, so see, we're doing something different here. I love it. We're still in that dice motif, but we don't have just the same things being repeated over and over again in slightly different ways. So 2 of dice, we have the little Dungeons and Dragons characters. That's fantastic. Again, here's another, like it's a little Dungeons and Dragons figurine, right? But it's different, right? And it has a totally different energy, and this is fantastic. So here's our 4 of dice. I love that. Our 5. Our 6. That's cool. I like that one. And our 7. See, this is great. Our 8. Our 9. That's really cool. And the 10. Even these two that are pretty similar, right? It's kind of this very similar energies being depicted here, but they do have a slightly different vibe, a slightly different story to tell, so that's cool. There's our page, our knight, that's awesome. The king, and the queen. Okay, so those were our minors, and apparently we're going to go backwards through our majors, so that's what we're going to do. The world, this is beautiful for a world card. I really like this illustration. This idea of this younger hand holding the older hand, it's beautiful. That's a powerful judgment card. Really like that. The sun, the moon. That's pretty powerful. Again, like I said, the majors and the quartz are usually really good in these decks most of the time. The star, that's pretty cool. Yes, the tower, that's awesome. I love it. The devil, that's a fantastic devil. Great job there. Temperance. Death. Oh, what a powerful death card. A Hanged Man. Justice. The Wheel of Fortune. Oh, that's just clever. That's clever. I love it. The Hermit. Oh, I like that. L in the water. Strength. Yes. Perfect. Love it. The Chariot. That's great. The Lovers. Cute. The Hierophant. That just makes me giggle. I love a deck that makes me giggle. This Emperor is awesome. I love that energy for the Emperor. And yes, with the pairing. Love that. Our Emperor and Empress. Beautiful. Of course, El's the High Priestess. I mean, right? And look, it's an 11. Right? It's the eye in the eye. It looks like an 11. That's just so cool. The Magician. Oh, that's so cool. And the Fool, of course. So yeah, really, really interesting. Again, the majors are great. Like I got no complaints on the majors. Love that. I think that the majors are excellent. I love the characters that have been chosen. I think that they are represented beautifully. The artwork is really wonderful. It has definitely that sort of kind of grungy 80s color palette, which is awesome. Feels very, very on point for the Stranger Things world. And like Perfect Tower. I mean, yeah, it's really good. Love that world card. Love it. Okay, so really, really good major arcana there. I want to pop into the guidebook because I really don't have any clue as to really what deck is, or what suit is what. So let's just pop into the guidebook. We have our table of contents here. It says, welcome to Hawkins, where things are strange and just keep getting stranger. So here's a little bit about meeting your deck. It does tie into the show. So it says, think of learning tarot like moving to a new town. Imagine how Elle felt as she discovered the faces, places, and nuances of life outside the lab. That's pretty cool. It's great when they tie it in. So here we have the major arcana, what it is about. It looks like we have full color image for the major arcana, and we have just upright and reversed, which says upside down. Yes, perfect. I love that. So it does tell us which character and why that character has been chosen and how it relates to the Arcana card, which is fantastic. So we have that through all of the majors. And let's pop over to, I just want to see who's in the world card. The world has arrived and welcomes you to look back and celebrate how far you've come. Oh, Hopper and Elle. Hopper and 11. Okay, so I thought maybe that was Hopper's hand, but I couldn't be sure. So Hopper and 11 navigate a rough path, and in the end, they become family, forging an unbreakable bond. I love that. That's great. Okay, so minor arcana. All right, so let's see. All right, so here we go. The suit of strands is connected to the element of fire. Let's pull these out because I want to see. So I got the colors though. The colors are awesome. All right, so the suit of strands is connected to the element of fire, and in other decks is known as the suit of wands. All right, let's see. Let's look. Do we get wandsy energy out of this? I think I was thinking swords. Just there were a few cards that made me think swords, but originally I was like, that must be wands. It's light, it's fire. So 8 of wands, right? 7 of wands. Yeah, I can kind of get that. 5 of wands, that fits. 4 of wands. I wish they had done something a little bit different in the 2 and the 3, but you know, like I feel like it's evolving. It's an evolving process, and I do like what a lot of them have, a lot of the representations in here. Oh, so the scoops is pentacles. See, I would have had no idea. And then to me that goes, well, what's cups? Because none of these speak cups. These speak more cups to me, but the thing is with a deck like this, I can read it however I want. If I want to read these as cups, I totally can. Particularly because, okay, so Devil's Advocate, here's the benefit of a really pippy deck. They associate this the scoops with the pentacles, and that's definitely not a association I would make. To me, it feels more in the cups, but because it's very pip style, I can read it however I want, right? This could totally be 5 of Cups energy, right? The cone's broken. We have the little, almost looks like a face in there. The 4 of Cups, right? If I wanted to, you have all of this being offered to you. So, I mean, you can, it's a little bit open to interpretation. I don't really get pentacle energy out of that. But it's often a case of with these decks that the suit elements don't often align with my own personal understanding, and that's okay. I can either work with it in a way that works for me, or I can use the associations that have been included in here. So the dice is swords. Okay, do we get swords energy out of this? So our Queen of Swords and our King. Knight of Swords, Page of Swords. That one I can kind of get on board with. So that would be our 10 of Swords. And our 9. Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I can see it in here. 4 of Swords. Yeah. I mean, I get where they're going. At least this would be the 3 of Swords then, right? So at least it's not tied into heartbreak. So I like that. Yeah, but it doesn't, like, I don't know. But yeah, okay. So that leaves our spokes with being our cups and aligned with water. So do we get water vibes? So Queen of Cups, this to me does not speak Queen of Cups at all. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. Page of Cups then, 10 of Cups. Yeah, I'm not getting Cups energy out of this, but again, I can read it however I want, right? So 4 of Cups. Is it just me? I would love to know. I would love to know what everybody else thinks. So like, please feel free to comment below. Like, do these elemental associations make sense for you? I have only seen the show once all the way through, right? I've seen from the first season to the what just finished up not too long ago, so I am caught up, but I've only seen it once. It's not a show that I've rewatched many, many times. However, just looking at the cards, like this feels Queen of Cups to me. Like, as does this. Yeah, so I feel like that for me personally, I would change the elemental associations, which is something that I would do in the Star Trek Tarot by this company as well. So let's just, I'm curious now. So scoops, see, I can't even remember because they don't really line. So pentacles, okay. So that would be the Queen of Pentacles, right? And y'all know that she's my card. So let's see what it has to say about the Queen of Pentacles. Karen Wheeler is a queen who knows how to leverage her gifts. She represents the importance of domestic work, caring for your family, and using your experiences to impart wisdom and make choices in the best interest of everyone you love. She encourages you to take time for yourself by being resourceful and practical. I mean, I get out of that description, I can get some Queen of Pentacles energy, but to me, this card just looks like the Queen of Cups. So 8 of Spokes. So spokes were, I can't even remember now, cups, correct? It's a bit confusing. Okay, spokes are cups. So this is our 8 of Cups. Are there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Clever, like that. So there are 8 leaves. It says sometimes you just need to say, I dump your ass. All right, and head for the next bus. There's something negative in your life holding you back, and this is a sign to part ways with it. Despite your best efforts, it's not working out, and yes, it will be difficult to say goodbye, but you will very quickly fill the void with something truly positive. I mean, I like that for an 8 of Cups energy. Like, the book, I think, is good. The cards are good. I just, the imagery doesn't necessarily speak directly to the element in the suit that has been chosen, but that doesn't mean that I can't that I can't work with it and that I can't read it either, you know, in alignment with the book. I would eventually get to know which was which, right? But like the strands, I don't know. What do I feel? This feels wandsy to me. This feels wands. This feels cups. Wands, cups. Does it say it was wands? Oh yeah, it said wands. So yeah, okay, wands, but this feels cups to me. Oh, what do I think here? With all this stone, with all these characters being like, because they're little, like, I assume they're little like minifigures, right? This feels almost pentacles to me, now that I'm looking at it. And it's dice. That feels pentacles, and this feels air. So this feels swords, which is probably not what I said going in, but now that I've looked at it, yeah, I feel like this feels like swords, this feels like pentacles, this feels like cups, and this feels like wands. Does it matter? Absolutely not. These are all just my own personal associations. I kind of like it. I have a few disappointments with the suit of scoops, just because I feel like there could have been opportunity. There's like 4 or 5 cards here that just have kind of really repeating imagery, not quite in the super pippy way, but it's still repeating enough that I'm kind of like, I wish you would have done more. Let's talk about the cardstock real quick. It's like matte. It's definitely matte. Generally, my inside edition decks actually shuffle really well, so it's a good size. I can get my hands around it. It's a little bit stiff, but it's new, and it shuffles quite well. A little bit sticky pushing back together, but that's that matte, and generally that kind of like wears a little bit. It does riffle shuffle nicely though. It's just the tiniest bit of a stretch for my hand. Let's do a comparison, because I don't think I've ever done a proper walkthrough of a deck by this particular creator on my channel. I know I've shown a few here and there that I have in my collection, but this is Tarot of Haunted House, so Lo Scarabeo deck. So it is just a little bit wider and a little bit taller. So pretty standard tarot size there. Let's go ahead and let's do a little play with it now. So we've shuffled. It overhands nicely. I feel like it's gonna be fantastic once I like edge it in black. Definitely needs to be edged. Very, very cool. I'm just trying to think here as we're shuffling what might be fun to pair this with, and just kind of give it a little opportunity to have a conversation with some of the other decks in my collection. So let's just see what I've got. We're gonna split the deck in our usual, and I'm feeling like, because I have this right here, the Urban Crow Oracle, I feel like is gonna go really well with this. You know, it's urban, where this is, you know, Midwest, but I feel like it has a little bit of a similar kind of energy to it. I really wish I had the Southern Gothic Oracle. That's an Oracle deck that has been on my wish list, and I feel like if I had that, that would be the deck to pair the Stranger Things with. And in fact, it's making me want to pick up a copy of the Southern Gothic Oracle just so I can play with those together, because I feel like that's the one, right? All right, let's see what we've got here with the Urban Crow though. Ooh, yeah, that's cool. I'm liking that. I figured the colors were gonna be fantastic in these two decks together. Soar between the 10 of Scoops and Death. That's quite powerful. Luck between the Devil and the 8 of Strands. Yep, might need a little luck here and there. Upheaval between the Star and the Ace of Strands. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm liking these together. I feel like they work well. Mischief between the 9 of Dice and the Queen of Spokes. Beautiful. Let's just do a couple more. Commitment, 8 of Spokes, Queen of Strands. Scavenge with our Lovers and the 2 of Dice. Let's do something a little bit different. I have the Wisdom of the Shadow here. This is an indie deck. It is an excellent deck for shadow work. But, you know, there's a lot of shadow energy in the Stranger Things series. And so I thought it would be interesting to pull that kind of energy into working with this deck. So we have expectations between the Five of Strands and the Five of Scoops. That's interesting. And there's like this writing all over. There's also kind of that little bit of a little bit of that 80s kind of energy coming through the Wisdom of the Shadow as well. Or it could just be for me in terms of the artwork. So I feel like they're going to go together really well. So we have Rage with the 8 of Dice and the 4 of Scoops. Interesting. Inner Child, the King of Spokes, and Justice. The colors actually go together really, really well too. Rising between the 7 of Scoops and the Queen of Dice. I like that. I like these are actually quite compatible. I still feel like the Southern Gothic is where it's at. If somebody has the Southern Gothic in this deck, let me know. Try it, let me know. Here we have opening between the King of Dice and the Knight of Scoops. Really cool. Discomfort between the 8 of Scoops and the Knight of Strands. All right, let's do one more. Ooh, we're gonna end on shame. That's quite powerful. With the Wheel of Fortune and the 3 of Strands. I'm quite thrilled with it. I definitely want to spend some time playing with it. I didn't know if it would just be a deck that I would kind of check out, share with you all, and then just kind of most likely put on my nerd shelf with all my other fandom decks, which, don't get me wrong, I totally love. I kind of just want to do, I want to do a little 3 card, just because I want to play with it a little bit and see. I feel like there's a card that, yeah, some of the lamination is coming off that card, but I kind of just want to do a 3 card and play with it and see see what it has to say. So I like to kind of do just like an introductory reading with my decks when I get them. I just do a simple 3 card just to see what the deck has to tell me. So we got the 3 of Dice, the 9 of Spokes, and the Page of Strands. I like that. So let's go ahead and jump into the guidebook and just see what it has to say. So the 3 of Dice. I didn't get any major arcana cards, so to me that says, you know, this is going to be good for everyday work, little work, mundane work, everyday things. And I love that it does have that like very nostalgia kind of 80s vibe for me. It kind of has like that childhood feel. Now I'm wondering, you know, maybe it might be good for a little bit of inner child work as well, just because of my personal connection to this time frame, this era. This is the 3 of Dice. Finds you with your game board. Flip to the dark underside, plummeting your quest into shadows. The pain and frustration you're feeling are completely valid. Maybe you've been the lost knight, or maybe someone close to you has vanished without a trace. Take some time to express your feelings. Liberate yourself fully from the pain and pick up the pieces and get back into the game. And then we have our 9 of Spokes. I do kind of wish it had some keywords. 9 of Spokes. It goes backwards in the book as well, so it goes from the queen down to the ace rather than the other way around, which is a little bit confusing because that's kind of backwards of how most books do, but you kind of get the hang of it. It says, remember the lessons of letting go learned in the 8 of Spokes. This card represents something better you were waiting for. It's time to indulge yourself and to reward the dedication and hard work you've done. So we got to get back into the game. We've let things go and we're going to be moving into that kind of reward space, moving into accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. And then we have the Page of Strands. Is there anything more thrilling than discovery? Dustin and Susie are flushed with the enthusiasm of forming a connection, relishing in the newness of one another. Like the Page of Strands, you might be bursting with energy, ready to embark on an adventure, but you aren't sure where you're going. Start making plans to reach the stars and fly a fantasy. So that's pretty cool, actually, right? They read together really well. We're going to get back into the game. We're going to travel on to this new adventure. And I think that's really cool. Again, it feels really like in that everyday mundane kind of a world. And I like that about it. I feel like this is a deck that I could definitely use for lots of different things, for kind of just basic everyday readings. I could also, again, because of my tie into this time period, I could also use it for some inner child work, for some work around my own past, of who I was at the time in the 80s, right? And what this decade symbolized for me, meant for me. I would be curious, although it's not like aesthetically not going to be like the greatest match in the world, but there are a few decks that I feel tie into that energy for me. Morgan Greer is one of them, as is the Nicoletta Ciccoli Tarot. So I would be interested to see how this deck reads with those, given that I have that personal connection. And I think it's always interesting when we talk about fandom decks, right? And I kind of we're going to segue just for a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this one back in the box because I do want to talk for a moment about fandom decks. So these four decks, almost said three, these four decks for me all happen to be by Insight Edition, and they are all my fandom decks. So I purchased each one of these decks. I cited this one because this one, again, was sent to me for review, but I purchased these three decks because each of these worlds represent something significant in my life. So we're just going to have a little chat about that really quick because yes, the lazy pip thing is an issue, but I feel like Insight Editions is starting to take note of the feedback on their decks, and they're creating more fully fleshed out tarot decks. This is the Labyrinth Tarot. This is the very first deck that I ever purchased from Insight Edition. I knew that I was going to buy this deck regardless of what it looked like because the Labyrinth is a very important show to me in my personal history, right? But it's very much this is the lazy pips that people are talking about, right? And that people have talked about with the Insight Edition decks. But I have this deck because it has personal significance to me. So again, like I said, it's a deck that I put on my shelf, and whenever I look at it, I think about that time in my life. Now it's back in order. I have read with it. I put it back in order because I was going to do a video and whatever, life got in the way. I have worked with it and I have read with it, and it does work quite well for me because one, I can read with a pip style deck, and two, it's about the fandom for me. It's not about necessarily what's on the card. It's about the fandom. So same with the Skyrim deck here. So I have played Elder Scrolls with my husband since the very first one, and this is Elder Scrolls 5. We played the very, very first one when it came out however many years ago. It was a long, long time ago. And although this artwork to me doesn't speak to Skyrim, again, we have the pips. Again, it's about immersing ourselves in the world, right? It's about me spending time in this fandom, in this world that I've been exploring. You know, I'll be the first one to say that this lazy pip thing needs to go, right? If you're going to make a tarot deck, make a tarot deck that is fully usable to anybody with a basic understanding of the most popular system of tarot, right? There's lots of traditions of tarot, but there is the standard Rider-Waite-Smith, which most of us do know how to read with. So it's one thing to make a deck that is going to be like a collector thing, which I'm in both camps. I bought these decks to be collector decks, but also I did if they were going to be usable decks for me, I would use them. The Skyrim deck has actually turned out to be a usable deck for me, even though it has those pips. Because again, I'm immersing myself in that world. And I showcased this deck in with the Endless Oracle because it just kind of occurred to me to pair those two. And I've actually done that quite a few times now. And those two decks I work with quite frequently together. But it's also about immersing myself in the fandom. So the big disappointment deck for me was the Star Trek, the Next Generation Tarot. This was again another one that I knew I was going to buy regardless of whether or not I agreed with the associations and the cards. This is not a deck I ever intend to read with because too many of the associations miss the mark for me. But again, it's a fandom and it's a show that has so much personal meaning to me. This is a show I still watch. This is a game I still play. This is a movie I still watch. We watch this movie every year with my kids when we go camping, still to this day. And so like I have personal associations to these fandoms. And I think that's what it is for a lot of people. This is not good. In my opinion, the suit associations are all wrong. The pentacle suit is the worst. It's just these latinum bars piled on top of each other, right? Or I don't know, the bathless might be the worst because they even get cut off. Like there's so much about this deck that's problematic for me, but I still like to be able to immerse myself in this world and look at these characters. And I'll be honest, I like to look up on my shelf and see this deck. Just the fact that a Star Trek, the Next Generation Tarot deck exists. Two of my favorite things, Star Trek and tarot, exists. And it's on my shelf and I can look at it anytime I want. This is not a readable deck for me. This is not a usable deck for me because there's too much about this deck that doesn't correspond with the way that I work with tarot. These two I can, and I have a feeling that the Stranger Things is going to be a deck that I can work with because again, it is more than just the deck itself. And I think that's the thing with fandom decks, right? I'm not like, how do I say this? I want this publisher to take our comments seriously about the pips. I want them to put effort into the decks and to give these fandoms the respect and the fans the respect that they deserve, which these fandoms and the people who buy these decks to read as actual tarot decks deserve to have a fully realized tarot, not one that somebody has cobbled together because they happen to have licensing, right? I'm going to be perfectly honest about that. We as fans deserve better than that. These shows, these fandoms, the people who created these worlds deserve better than that. I feel like we're getting there. The Stranger Things is better. Again, I don't follow this publisher. I don't haven't done a lot of work with their decks, but clearly I have several of them. And again, it's because it's the fandom, right? It's because it's immersing myself in that world. I hope that we continue to get more fully realized tarot decks from this publisher. I have really enjoyed this time that I've spent here with you looking at the Stranger Things Tarot. I have not done walkthroughs of these decks, and there's reasons for that. I do own them. I did purchase them with my own money, and I have them for very significant personal reasons. This was one that I was on the fence about, so when they contacted me, I decided to go ahead and give it a try so that I could share it with you. But that's the thing, right, with these fandom decks, is that they mean more to us, for most of us. If we own a fandom deck, it's because there is something significant about this world. There's something significant about this show, about this movie, about this video game that means something to us on a personal level. And so I think that is the appeal of fandom decks and why many people purchase them even when they don't necessarily align with their own personal tarot practice or how they work with the cards. So given all that, I do want to say the Stranger Things Tarot, I like it. It's good. I put it back and now I want to get it back out because like I kind of want to play with it. I feel like it's also a good deck for this time of year, right? As far as being kind of dark spooky season, right? Stranger Things is kind of a dark spooky show in a lot of ways, and I think that there's so much there's so much nostalgia here as well. It goes beyond the show itself. And I think that's a big part of fandom decks for me personally, is it does go beyond the show itself. I'm not trying to like toot the horn of fandom decks. There's a lot of fandom decks out there that are not licensed, are copyright infringement, and you know, that are problematic in different ways. At least we have some licensing here. At least it's legit, and I do appreciate that. I also really appreciate that we're starting to see the move away from the lazy pips into the more fully realized tarot decks. So yeah, Stranger Things. It's not gonna fan because it's matte. I was gonna try to fan it and like do a whole pretty thing, but I feel like it does actually have a place in my life and in my practice, whereas some of the fandom decks that I own, like they sit on the shelf and they're just to be there as a knickknack, right? Then there are fandom decks that I do actually use, like this one. And I think this is going to be more in the camp of a deck I would actually use, because there's more here going on for me personally than the show itself. Yes, I enjoyed the show. I'm not a super fan, but it's more about the time, the decade, the nostalgia that is within this deck, as well as like it makes me feel like the Goosebumps stories that I used to read as a kid, right? Kind of taps into that sort of energy. And so I'm really excited to work with it in that sense. But I wasn't sure going in. So this has been my really long-winded whole into the world of fandom decks, taking a look specifically at the Stranger Things tarot deck. I would love to know if you have this deck, what your experiences have been with it. So please feel free to share with me in the comments below. As always, I will leave links for everything I've shown here in the description box for you. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.